Welcome to the Explainer. Listen, if you've used a chatbot at all today, you're definitely going to want to hear this. Today, we're unpacking a really fascinating and honestly pretty provocative keynote presentation titled Shadow of the Machine: The True Cost of AI. Now, over the last few years, we've all been sold this breathtaking, glittering utopia of artificial intelligence. We've all seen the sleek corporate promos, right? Where AI just effortlessly drafts your emails, diagnoses rare diseases, and generates these incredible pieces of art from just a single line of text. It's pitched to us as the ultimate optimization tool. But, as any physicist will tell you, the brighter the light, the darker the shadow it casts. So in this explainer, we're going to look right past that blinding light and stare directly into the shadow.
Okay, let's dive right into this. The source material kicks things off by calling out what it terms our techno-blindness. We have this illusion of AI as a glowing, weightless, almost magical brain floating around in our smartphones. It feels completely separate from the real world. But the keynote argues that the very first truth we have to reckon with is that AI is actually profoundly physical. Far from being just magic in the cloud, the presentation describes modern AI as a massive industrial extraction machine that is consuming absolutely staggering amounts of resources. So to really grasp the true impact of this tech, the source breaks it down into layers. Let's peel back all that glossy marketing jargon and take a look at the foundation. Layer 1, the physical toll. Now, we're constantly told that AI is green, right? That it's going to replace paper or optimize global shipping routes. But the presentation counters that corporate narrative with a very stark reality check about what AI is actually doing to the Earth and to our energy grids. According to the source, training just one single large language model one time can emit more carbon dioxide than 5 cars will over their entire lifespans. And yes, that actually includes the manufacturing of those cars. It's wild to think about, but every single time you ask an AI to write a quick poem or generate a funny image, a huge cluster of high-powered graphic chips in a data center somewhere is pulling immense power directly from the local energy grid. And that colossal energy pull? It has real-world consequences that are truly astonishing. The presentation points out that in the United States, data centers are eating up electricity at a rate that's actively derailing our clean energy goals. In fact, tech companies that swore up and down they'd be carbon neutral are reportedly and very quietly extending the lifespans of coal and natural gas plants just to keep their AI clusters humming. Plus, these chips run unbelievably hot. To keep them from literally melting down, these data centers need millions of gallons of fresh water every single day. Precious local water supplies are literally being evaporated into thin air just so a chatbot can summarize an article for us.
But here's the thing. The environmental impact is really only part of the story. The source material also outlines a completely hidden human underclass. Big tech loves to present AI as this brilliant digital child that just learns all by itself. But the reality presented here is a lot darker. AI has to be trained on what is safe and what's toxic. And to do that, tech companies rely on an invisible army of what the keynote calls ghost workers. The source reports that tens of thousands of contractors in countries like Kenya, India, and the Philippines are out there earning less than $2 an hour. Their daily job, sitting in front of screens for 8 to 10 hours a day, manually filtering through and tagging the absolute worst, most vile filth on the internet. We're talking severe trauma, graphic violence, hate speech, the works. The text argues that these individuals are essentially acting as psychological meat shields for Western technology, absorbing unmediated trauma so that a massive tech company can launch a brand-safe product. So, having laid out that physical foundation, the keynote then shifts gears to the digital surface to examine what happens when we deploy these models at a global scale.
Which brings us to layer 2, the death of truth.
Think about this for a second. What actually happens when seeing is no longer believing? For essentially the entirety of human history, a photograph or an audio recording was a rock-solid, definitive record of reality. Seeing was believing. But the presentation argues that today, as we step into this post-truth era, that rule is officially completely dead. Generative AI has democratized deception. With a cheap monthly subscription and maybe 5 minutes of practice, anyone can whip up an incredibly convincing deepfake, and that is fundamentally altering our entire relationship with digital media. The text warns that we aren't just talking about, funny videos of celebrities doing silly dances. We are talking about weaponized chaos. The speaker offers a couple of really chilling examples to put this into perspective. First, imagine a deepfake audio clip dropping on a Friday afternoon where a major CEO falsely claims their company is going bankrupt. Boom. By the time anyone proves it's fake, billions of dollars in stock value have already vanished into thin air. Or imagine a deepfake video of a prominent politician accepting a bribe, and it gets leaked just 24 hours before a major election. Even if that video is thoroughly debunked the very next day, the damage is done. The democratic process has already been hijacked. The consequences are immediate, and they are devastating. Bad actors and foreign intelligence agencies are already weaponizing these uncensored AI models to launch massive, targeted disinformation campaigns. And here is a truly insidious twist that the keynote points out. Because our social media algorithms are laser optimized for engagement, and absolutely nothing drives engagement quite like raw outrage, the AI that controls your feed actively promotes these AI-generated lies. The presentation describes this vicious cycle as algorithmic warfare. Just think about your own social media feed for a second. The system actively rewards the most outrageous, entirely fake content just to keep your eyeballs glued to the screen. The ultimate goal for these bad actors isn't just to spread one specific lie. It's to create an entire ecosystem where truth itself is entirely subjective. When people can't even trust their own eyes, they stop trusting institutions, they stop trusting science, and worst of all, they stop trusting each other. Moving right along to layer 3, outsourcing our minds. This brings us to the final, and I think perhaps the most intimate layer discussed in the presentation. We are moving from the environmental past the societal and going straight into the cognitive. Let's look at how the source claims AI is changing who we are on a fundamental psychological level. I want to just slow down here because this quote from the source is incredibly powerful. We are increasingly outsourcing our heavy thinking to AI, right? We ask it to write our emails, apologize to our friends for us, summarize long books. But every single time we do that, we are skipping the messy, uncomfortable, deeply human process of actually thinking. The keynote argues that the friction of sitting there, trying to find the exact right word, is what forces your brain to synthesize ideas and build new neural pathways. When you eliminate that friction by having a machine do it for you, your cognitive muscles literally begin to atrophy. The presentation actually coins a pretty fascinating term for this kind of cognitive theft: statistical mediocrity. Think about it. Because these models are trained on the mathematical average of all human text, outsourcing our expression to them means we are actively choosing to live in a totally average world. We are trading human genius, friction, and that weird eccentric creativity we all have for smooth, corporate, totally predictable content. And the presenter argues that the ultimate trade-off here is that we become passive, we become bored, and we become incredibly lazy. We're facing a very direct threat to our independence. On one side, we have human autonomy, our ability to make independent choices. But on the flip side, the source introduces this concept of hyper-nudging. AI algorithms aren't just sitting there passively predicting what movie you want to watch or what shoes you want to buy anymore. They're actively shaping your desires. By analyzing your personal data, your emotional states, and your deepest vulnerabilities, AI can subtly manipulate your behavior to maximize corporate profit. The text warns that we are slowly, almost imperceptibly, surrendering our individual autonomy, piece by piece, simply because it's convenient. And finally, let's look at the resolution: reclaiming the boundary. So, is the battle already lost? Are we doomed? The presentation makes a hard pivot here to say absolutely not. Technology is not some unstoppable force of nature. It's just a tool, and it's a tool that we actively choose how to build, how to deploy, and how to govern. The speaker argues that this dark side only exists because we've allowed massive tech companies to prioritize breakneck speed over basic safety. To push back the shadow, the keynote lays out a very specific 3-part framework. Step 1 is radical transparency. This means forcing tech corporations to disclose exactly what data they're scraping, what their massive energy draw is, and exactly who is laboring to train their models, kind of like how a drug company has to list its side effects. Step 2 is enforceable accountability. We need robust policy frameworks that draw hard ethical lines in the sand and mandate actual human oversight for high-stakes AI decisions. And step 3, which is the one you and I can do today, is reclaiming the friction. We have to consciously choose when not to use AI. The presentation urges us to protect our creative spaces, our deep problem-solving moments, and simply refuse to let a machine do our living for us. The keynote concludes by reminding us that AI can absolutely be an incredible ally. Whether it's modeling climate change solutions or processing massive scientific data sets, it has amazing potential, but only if it remains under strict human governance. The dark side of AI isn't really a problem with the machines themselves. It's a mirror reflecting our own human obsession with taking shortcuts. So as we wrap up this explainer, I'm going to leave you with the ultimate question posed by the source material. Will we let a black box dictate who we are, or will we step up, govern the machine, and protect the mind? That is definitely something to think deeply about before you prompt your next chatbot.